The paper bag slipped right out of my hands before I could even think. A loud crash echoed in my little cottage, and red spaghetti sauce exploded all over my new white tile floor. It spread everywhere, like someone had spilled a giant bottle of paint. I just froze in the doorway for a few seconds, my keys still dangling from my fingers. My heart was racing. My mom and my sister were standing in my house. My cottage, the one I had only shown them pictures of 3 days ago. The one whose address I hadn't told anyone. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice sounding strange and hollow, almost like it belonged to someone else. Zephyra spun around, holding a long measuring tape in her hands. She had been measuring my guest bedroom, the room I planned to use as my home office. She looked startled for just a second, and then her expression changed to one that made me want to scream. It was the expression she always used when she thought she was in charge. "Arlena, you're home early," she said, her voice calm, like she was visiting someone else's house and didn't care about my feelings. "But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it?" My mom was busy straightening the sofa and the chairs. She was moving everything around, trying to make it fit her ideas, even though I hated the new arrangement. "We thought you'd be at work until 5, I said, trying to understand what was happening. "That doesn't answer my question," I said, stepping over the sticky puddle of sauce on the floor. My shoes stuck a little with each step. "How did you get in here?" Mom waved her hand as if it didn't matter. "Oh, I had a key made yesterday when I stopped by to congratulate you," she said casually, like this was no big deal. I remembered that day. Mom had visited briefly a few days ago. She had asked to use the bathroom and for just a moment had left her purse behind in the hallway. At the time, I hadn't thought anything of it. I hadn't realized she was making a copy of my keys. "You took my keys and made a copy?" Without asking me. My voice shook, and even I was surprised at how scared I sounded. "Don't be so dramatic, honey," Mom said, fluffing a pillow as if nothing serious had happened. "We're just trying to make this work for everyone." "Make what work?" I asked, but before I could say more, a terrible thought hit me like a hammer. I knew what they were planning. The memory of my childhood came back in flashes. I remembered Zephyra's 11th birthday. She had a huge backyard party with a clown and a big carnival setup. And my birthday that same year? I had a small cake in our living room at home. Mom's excitement and money were always for Zephyra first. Always. And now, when I had bought a house, she hadn't congratulated me. Instead, she called Zephyra immediately to discuss the possibilities. The pattern had never stopped. "This is my home," I said slowly, carefully, each word like a frozen shard of ice. "Not yours. Not ours. Mine." I walked over to Zephyra and plucked the spare key from her hand. She had been fidgeting with it, twisting it between her fingers, but when I took it, she released it without fighting. "You can't be serious about living here alone," Zephyra said, pretending to be concerned. "This place has 3 bedrooms. The kids need space." Her forehead wrinkled like she was worried, but I could see the little lie behind her eyes. I didn't hesitate this time. "Your housing situation is not my problem," I said, and my voice sounded steadier than I expected. Mom gasped dramatically, holding her hand to her chest. "After everything we've done for you? You have exactly 2 minutes to leave before I call the police," I said, pointing firmly toward the door. "You wouldn't dare," Mom said, her voice sharp now. 1 minute 50 seconds, I repeated. They left, slamming the door so hard that the windows rattled. I slid the deadbolt into place and clicked it. It felt like finally closing a gate I had been trying to build my whole life. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Dad's name flashed across the screen. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted the second I answered. "Your mother is in tears. You're tearing this family apart with your selfishness." I said nothing, just scrubbed harder at the red sauce that refused to come off the tile. "Zephyra needs help. That's what family does," Dad shouted, his voice booming across the phone. I whispered to myself, barely moving my lips. Always understood. Always accommodated. Always sacrificed. Not anymore. After I hung up, I looked at the family photo on my mantel. Mom, Dad, Zephyra with her husband and kids, and me slightly off-center, smiling the same forced smile I'd worn all my life. For the first time, I could see it all clearly. The pattern. The unfairness. I put the frame face down on the shelf. This house is mine. This life is mine. I am done giving it away. 3 days later, I was sitting with a cup of coffee, enjoying a rare moment of peace. My phone pinged. It was a Facebook notification. I thought maybe it was just a normal family photo, but it wasn't. It was worse. It was a post from 3 weeks ago, before I had even closed on my house. Zephyra had posted a picture of her kids all crammed into a single bedroom, their faces squeezed together and a little sad. The caption read, "Kids are finally getting a bigger place soon. Blessed. Family first." My thumb hovered over the screen. One of her friends asked, "Which bedroom does Kaylee's get?" Zephyra answered, "The blue one with the bay window. Tavian and Fenric will share the room across the hall. Mom thinks the third bedroom should stay a guest room in case Aunt Carol visits." My coffee mug slipped from my hand. Hot liquid spilled over my feet, but I barely noticed the burn. My stomach twisted. 3 weeks ago. They were planning this long before I even bought my house. This wasn't a random idea. This was carefully planned. Then my phone buzzed again. Dad had sent a group message meant for Mom and Zephyra, but accidentally included me. "Don't worry about Arlena. She'll give in once you're settled," Mom had written. She always does. Those 3 words hit me harder than anything else. They summed up my entire life. The next evening, I got another text. "We need to talk about a solution. Mom is making pot roast. 7 p.m. Every instinct in me screamed to stay away. I wanted to avoid them completely. But a small, fragile part of me hoped maybe they had reconsidered, maybe they had changed their minds. When I arrived, the table was already set with Mom's best dishes. Mom, Dad, and Zephyra sat all together on one side. The empty chair for me was on the other side. The separation was clear, like an invisible line on the floor. "Arlena," Mom said, smiling tightly, "we're so glad you could join us." Before I could answer, Dad slid a manila folder across the table toward me. "We've found the perfect solution," he said. Inside the folder were printouts of 5 houses, all within 2 miles of Zephyra's children's school. Each had little notes like perfect playroom or good backyard. "These are lovely," I said carefully, "for Zephyra and Mark." Dad cleared his throat. "For all of you. Together. We already talked to your bank." Mom added, "Transferring your mortgage is easy. The price difference is manageable if everyone helps." My mouth went dry. "You contacted my bank." "Just preliminary discussions," Mom waved her hand. "You'll need to sell extra furniture anyway," Zephyra added. "For the kids' bunk beds. And the garage spaces." I sat there frozen. They were dividing my house, the home I had worked so hard for, without giving me a single cent. "Arlena," Dad said, his voice now serious, "if you refuse, it shows you don't care about your family." Mom reached for my hand, but didn't quite touch it. "Think about your nieces and nephews. Children remember who was there for them. Family comes first." Zephyra's eyes narrowed. "What would people think if they knew you had all that space while our kids are crammed into one room?" The familiar weight of expectations pressed on me, heavy and hard. All my life, I had been the sister who said yes, who gave in, who sacrificed for everyone else. But not this time. I stood up slowly, carefully placing my napkin beside my untouched plate. "Watch me not help," I said, my voice steady, stronger than I felt. I walked out of the house, ignoring their shouts, their calls to come back, their demands to be reasonable. In my car, my phone began buzzing with angry messages. I switched it to silent. As I drove home that night, I wondered if standing my ground was worth it. Would I lose my family forever? Could I compromise in some way, or was complete separation the only way to protect my home? Then I remembered the Facebook post. They had never planned to ask me. They had planned to take it. Some boundaries can't be shared. Sometimes the only protection is a wall. 3 days after the dinner ambush, my phone pinged again. Zephyra had posted another picture of her kids, this time all squished on a small pull-out sofa, pouting their little faces. The caption read, "When family abandonment means your kids don't have proper bedrooms. Family first. Unless you're selfish, apparently." My stomach twisted again as I scrolled through the comments. People I had known my whole life were siding with her, offering prayers, giving advice about family values. I wanted to reply, to defend myself, but what could I possibly say without making it worse? I sat back in my chair, staring at my untouched coffee, feeling the hot liquid cool beside me. My heart felt heavy, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been. I realized that for the first time, I had chosen myself. I wasn't going to be the person who always said yes. I wasn't going to be the sister who sacrificed her dreams so everyone else could get what they wanted. I had built my life, my home, and now I was going to protect it, even if it meant they never forgave me. I would not give them my home. Not this time. Not ever again. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It was a text from Mrs. Lisette, my 3rd grade teacher. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Your mother showed me pictures of your new home. It's beautiful. So much space for just one person. I raised 4 children in half that size. I put the phone face down on the counter and gripped the edge so hard that my knuckles turned white. A fire seemed to burn inside my chest. I felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. The betrayal cut me deeply, sharper than I expected. Not just from Zephra, who I have learned often acts this way, but from Mom. She had shared pictures of my house online with captions that were meant to make me feel guilty. She wrote things like I had forgotten where I came from and warned me about what happens when success goes to your head. I didn't want to think about it, but the doorbell rang, making my heart leap into my throat. I walked slowly to the peephole and looked out. Malachi Williams was standing on my front step, Bible tucked under his arm. This felt deliberate. He wouldn't just come by on a normal day. This was a part of the same plan. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I'm not available for visitors today," I said through the door. Arlena Adams, Malachi Williams, has known me since I was a little girl in Sunday school. He tried to sound gentle, but his voice carried concern. "Arlena, your family is worried. I'm here as your spiritual advisor." I interrupted him firmly. My voice surprised even me. "Please respect my privacy." I could hear him sigh. "I'll be praying for your heart to soften," he said, and then he left. After he walked away, I went to my kitchen table and started writing a list of everything that had happened since I had told my family to leave my house. It was a long list, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized just how serious this was. Their actions weren't small or innocent, they were meant to control me. Yesterday, I found proof of how far they were willing to go. My mortgage statement hadn't arrived in the mail, so I called the bank to ask what had happened. The representative on the phone told me something that made my stomach drop. My parents had called the bank and asked them to send all my financial papers to their house. They wanted to take control of my money and documents without asking me. They had nearly succeeded. If I hadn't been paying close attention to my bills and statements, I don't even want to think about what else they could have done. Sleep became almost impossible after that. Every night I lay awake, thinking about all the ways they could try to sneak into my life. Every small sound outside my windows made me jump. I started to dread checking my mail. I never knew what new boundary they would cross next or what new guilt trip they would try to send me. That morning, another problem appeared. I received an email from my homeowners association. My parents had called them, saying that I was running a business at my house. This was completely untrue, but it meant I had to spend time writing formal papers to prove that I only work from home sometimes, not running a business. The cost of all this estrangement was rising, but I knew that if I gave in, I would be trapped forever. My whole life could become nothing more than helping Zephra and my family, being their support system, and losing my freedom. That was unbearable to me. I decided to take action. I started small, changing all my passwords, setting up my mail to go directly to my workplace, and installing security cameras at every entrance. I wrote down every contact they tried to make, every post they shared about me online, and every attempt to access my personal information. The careful, methodical work helped calm my shaking hands. I felt a little more in control with every step I took. When the security company finished installing cameras and alarms, I felt both sadness and relief. My home, the place that was supposed to be my safe space and my independence, now felt like a fortress. It was sad to feel I needed protection even in my own house, but it was also comforting to know I finally had control. The next morning, a small miracle appeared on my desk at work. A loaf of homemade bread, wrapped in brown paper, sat there with a note tucked under the twine. "Sorry I blabbed about your new place. Not everyone thinks you're wrong. Some of us wish we'd been brave enough to set boundaries years ago. Eloan." I hadn't realized how lonely and isolated I had been until that small gesture made tears run down my face. For a moment, I felt peace, even if it was just a tiny moment. That evening, I pulled into my driveway and saw Zephra's SUV parked in front of my house. Shadows moved inside through my windows. The feeling of violation rushed over me, but this time it was mixed with a cold, clear anger. I didn't hesitate. I took out my phone and called the police. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains to watch the scene unfold. By the time the officer arrived, my family noticed me sitting in the driveway. They spilled onto the front porch. Mom looked self-righteous, Dad's face was red with anger, and Zephra held her purse to her chest like a shield. She started crying dramatically, throwing her own family onto the street. "We were just visiting," Mom said, trying to look innocent. I calmly showed the officer my security camera footage. I didn't give you permission to enter my home, I said, showing proof. Mom took a step forward, eyes darting toward the neighbors. How could you call the police on your own family? What will people think? Something inside me shifted. The question that had controlled me for my whole life, what will people think, suddenly felt ridiculous. I don't care what they think, I said, my voice steady. I care what I think. And I think this ends today. The officer told them to leave and warned them about trespassing. As they drove away, I realized something profound. I had spent my entire life afraid of disappointing my family. I measured my worth by their approval. But I had never thought about how much they disappointed me, or how little they had valued my independence, my choices, and my right to live a life of my own. The next day, Kaylin, a friend from college who now works as a family lawyer, helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter. They are counting on your guilt, he said. They have weaponized it your whole life. When Zephra showed up at my workplace the next week, her eyes swollen from crying, my coworkers formed a protective barrier around me. Aloan stopped her at the front desk. 2 other colleagues joined me for lunch when Zephra tried to confront me in the parking lot. I noticed the difference. People who owed me nothing respected my boundaries immediately. My family, who should protect me, had broken every line I drew. With every passing day, my voice grew stronger. No became easier to say. This doesn't work for me, rolled off my tongue naturally. I've made my decision, no longer felt like a betrayal. At home, I changed all the locks and upgraded the security system with cameras that sent alerts directly to my phone. I started gathering all the financial records, emails, texts, and social media posts to document years of exploitation. My folder of evidence grew thick. I hoped I would never need it, but having it made me feel safe. 2 days later, a notification appeared on my phone. The doorbell camera showed my mother trying a key in my front door. My heart raced as I watched her fail. She tried another key from her purse. I realized this wasn't over. It was only the beginning. I spent that Sunday afternoon organizing all my evidence like puzzle pieces on my dining table. Every trespass, every lie, every manipulation was carefully documented. I labeled each folder, added timestamps, and organized every security camera clip. Kaylin looked at the records and nodded. This is very thorough, he said. Monday morning, I placed the certified cease and desist letter in my mother's hands. She didn't open it. She just stared at me with wounded eyes, as if I had betrayed her by protecting myself. You'll regret this, she whispered, but she took the envelope. 3 days went by in blessed silence. No calls, no texts, no unexpected visits. I finally slept through the night for the first time in weeks. Thursday brought a new challenge. Aloan appeared at my desk, eyes wide. Your parents are in the lobby. They say your sister was in an accident. They need you immediately. Cold dread washed over me. My stomach dropped. I looked at my phone and saw a text from Zephra about school lunches, sent just 2 minutes ago. My family was lying to try to get me out of work. I calmly told my boss what was happening. My parents are lying about a family emergency to disrupt my workday. Security escorted them out, and I returned to my desk, ignoring the stares and the noise. That evening, I found Zephra's latest attack. She had created a GoFundMe page called Housing Crisis. Help my children have a home, using my photo without permission. I emailed the platform's legal team, and by morning, the campaign was gone. That night, I listened to my father's voicemail. His anger slipped into truth. You ungrateful little. We had it all planned. We were going to move in whether you liked it or not. Now you've embarrassed Mom. I saved the recording. When my company announced a new branch in Colorado Springs, I thought about moving. Would it be running away? Or would it be a chance for a fresh start, away from my family's reach? My support system stood strong around me. Kaylin sent a formal legal warning to my family. Silvara, my therapist, helped me write calm, factual responses, avoiding emotional traps. I was finally learning something powerful. My life was mine. My choices, my home, my work, my freedom. No one could take them away without my permission. And I wasn't afraid to protect them anymore. My boss says I can work at times that are good for me during this special period at work. She calls it a transitional period. But really, it just means she is letting me pick hours that fit my life. Her eyes look kind, like she cares about me, but they don't look like she feels sorry for me. They look like she understands. That makes me feel calm, a little safer, even though I have been tense for weeks. Your house needs better safety, says Isolde, my friend who helps people buy and sell houses. She walks around my yard carefully, pointing to places where we could put motion-sensing lights. Here, and maybe here too, she says. Then she goes to the back door. This door needs to be stronger. A really strong lock. Maybe a deadbolt, maybe a metal frame. Someone could try to get in. I thought I would be alone in all of this. I thought I would have to face my family and these problems by myself. But I was wrong. I found people who care about me. They respect my space. They understand that my family is not always nice or fair. They understand that my parents and Zephyra have been crossing boundaries for a long time. And now things are starting to change. I feel a little hope for the first time in a long time. Aunt Vespera calls me one day. She asks quietly about the other side of the story. Are they really asking for so much? She asks. I can tell she doesn't know everything that has happened. Cousin Daler also messages me. He says he doesn't think what my family is asking is fair. Even Zephyra's perfect social media campaign, the one where she tries to make herself look nice to the world, starts to fail. Friends comment, asking things like, why can't you and Mark support your own family? And isn't Posey single? Why should she house your kids? Even people who normally agree with my family are noticing that something isn't right. Their perfect, happy image is starting to crack. Their selfishness is showing. Then, something amazing happens. The job offer comes in my email on Friday afternoon. The words Colorado Springs branch manager shine on my screen like a bright light in a dark room. My chest feels lighter. Something feels like it is loosening. Maybe it is hope. Maybe it is freedom. For the first time in weeks, I smile, and it feels real. No worry, no fear, just a happy, honest smile. A week later, I am at home, and a cherry pie sits on my kitchen counter. It looks bright and red, and for a moment, I think it is a trap. My mom is standing next to it, tapping her fingers on the counter. I know that tapping. It is the same tapping she used to do when I didn't agree with her as a kid. I know it means impatience. It's your favorite, she says, trying to sound nice. But I know that cherry has always been Zephyra's favorite, not mine. I have told her this at least 20 times over the years, but she never listens. She keeps looking at my security camera near the front door. The little red light blinks, and it seems to make her nervous. That makes me feel a little happy inside. Finally, a small victory. I think we got off on the wrong foot, Mom says, trying to sound very polite. I can tell she has practiced this sentence. She shifts her weight from one foot to the other, just like she did before my parent-teacher conferences when I was a child. I can see right through her. Your father and I have been thinking, she continues, and we have the perfect solution. I wasn't negotiating. I tell her, keeping my distance. The kitchen island between us feels like a protective wall. I need space. Mom pulls a folder from her big purse. We found some nice houses just 15 minutes from here, she says. 5 bedrooms, lots of space. She slides the listings toward me, like she is offering me a gift. You sell your cottage, and we all move into one of these houses. There's even a mother-in-law suite for Zephyra's family, she says, smiling like she is giving me a wonderful present. I flip through the listings. The prices are 3 times what my cottage cost. 3 times. And how would this work with money? I ask. Well, you would get the master bedroom, she says, still smiling. We already toured 3 of them. The realtor was very helpful when we explained the situation. You toured houses in my name? I ask, my voice calm but shocked. Mom waves her hand. We had to move fast. The Henderson's daughter is also looking in that area. Listen, Posey, if you are difficult, we can contest the ownership. You couldn't have paid for this without family help. Family help? The words taste bitter in my mouth. Do they mean the rent I paid when I lived at home in college? Or the student loans I am still paying while Zephyra's education was fully funded? Mom's face gets hard. Don't be ungrateful, she says. I walk to my office without saying anything and return with an envelope. I place it on the counter next to her untouched pie. What's this? She asks, but she doesn't reach for it. It's a job offer from the new branch in Arizona, I say. I accepted it last week. Her hand stops mid-tap. Arizona, she whispers. Yes, I say. I'm selling the cottage and moving to Tucson next month. Her face loses color. But, what about Zephyra? She asks nervously. Her housing is not my problem, I say. I open a drawer and pull out a thick folder I've been keeping for a long time. Inside are papers that show all the truth about my family. I spread the papers across the counter. They show how I paid rent in college while Zephyra's education was fully funded. They show how my birthday gifts were small while hers were big. They show the loans my parents paid for her cars while I bought a used Honda. What is this supposed to be? Mom asks, her voice no longer polite or rehearsed. Evidence, I say, calm but firm. I pull out my phone and show security footage of 17 times my family tried to get into my house without permission. Mom watches herself and Zephyra trying keys in my locks, peeking through windows, and even bringing a locksmith who refused the job. I'm not running away, I say, gathering my papers. I'm running toward a better life, a life where I am valued, not just used. Your father will be angry, she whispers. But she sounds unsure. I'm counting on it, I say. 3 days later, I will go to my parents' house for what they call a family meeting. The driveway is full of cars. Aunt's car, cousin's SUV, grandmother's old Buick. Everyone is there to see me give in. I take a deep breath and enter. The living room goes silent. Zephyra sits on the couch with my parents, looking united. The rest of the family forms a loose semicircle, like they are watching a show. There she is, Dad says, forcing a smile. We were just about to explain our solution. Actually, I say, my voice loud in the quiet room, I have an announcement first. I put my folder on the coffee table and opened it. I show them the listing for my cottage, with a big red for sale sign. My house goes on the market Monday, I say. I've accepted a job in Arizona, and I'm moving next month. The room goes silent. Zephyra screams, but what about us? Where will we go? I look at her steadily. The same place you've been living. The same place you would still be if you hadn't tried to take what's mine. Dad stands, red in the face. This is how you abandon your family? After everything we've done for you. I hand copies of my papers to my grandmother and aunt. Here's what you've actually done. Different rules for different kids, different support, different expectations. My aunt's eyes get big as she reads the papers. You made her pay rent in college while Zephyra's apartment was paid. It built character. Dad snaps, but he looks less confident. More family members start reading my papers. You should see the security footage, I say. They tried to break into my house, called the mortgage company pretending to be me. Even made a GoFundMe saying I was in trouble. Grandmother covers her mouth. Mom and Dad are silent. That is enough. That evening I drove home. My phone buzzes with messages, not from my parents or Zephyra, but from my aunt, cousins, and grandmother. They send support and questions about what they've been told over the years. The cracks in my family's story are starting to show. 2 days later, my realtor called. You've got an offer, she says. $20,000 over asking, cash, 30-day close. I'll take it, I say. One more thing, she says. Do you want to keep the spare keys or throw them away? I think of all the keys copied without my permission. Throw them away, I say. I won't need them where I'm going. I hear that my parents already asked my cousin Jorvin about his guest house. The family cycle continues, but I'm not part of it. I wonder if I could ever have a relationship with my parents again. But that's for another day. Today I have boxes to pack and a new life to start, my own life. A year later, sunlight shines through windows that have no curtains yet. My furniture sits where I want it, not where someone else wanted it. Photos of me on mountains, shaking hands with my CEO, standing in front of my new house, decorate the wall. None of them are family photos. My phone buzzes sometimes, but I don't rush. I ignore unknown numbers and familiar ones too. Outside, my garden shines in the morning light. Basil, thyme, and rosemary grow in neat rows. Orange marigolds line the path. Mom always said these plants were too strong for her taste, but I love them. The doorbell rings at noon. Friends come in with gift bags and food. They are happy to see me. Happy birthday, Posy, says Amara, my friend, setting down an apple pie. Not cake, asks Jorvin. I like pie, I say, smiling. For years I had chocolate cake because Zephyra liked it. Now it's my choice. What should we toast to? Asks Lyra, my neighbor. To building homes, not just houses, I say, raising my glass. And to the family we choose. We clink glasses. The words feel warm inside me. On the wall near my door hangs a wooden key hook with just one key, mine. No spare, no one else's. Later, I think of Kalen, a new engineer at work. Yesterday, our manager ignored his ideas. I said, let's hear more. Your plan could save time. He looked surprised and grateful. I remembered how I finally stood up to my family. I get a text from Soren, someone I'm seeing. Still on for hiking Saturday? I smile and text back, absolutely. Before bed, I look at an old family photo. Everyone is together, and I'm slightly out of frame. I delete it and replace it with a picture of my front door, painted bold red, the way I wanted. Cousin Brenda texts sometimes. Last week, my uncle called to check in. These small connections happen on my terms. As I lie in bed, I wonder if staying away from my parents and Zephyra was the only way to heal, or if someday I can have a limited, healthy relationship. But tonight I am happy. I have a life that is truly mine. Every choice, from my garden to my friends, shows who I really am.